What is up, everybody? Hope you are having a grand old day or night, wherever you're joining us from. It's your boy, G-Max, also known as George Smith, coming at you live for the third round of this GT4 Championship. Of course, Season 2 running here at Racing Club International. You're watching live on RCI TV on YouTube. And it is good to be back in the box. I've recovered from whatever was holding me up last week, still undiagnosed as to why I couldn't actually join. But back in the box again with Sam Tech Girl. Right, Sam, did I miss anything last week?
You missed so much, George. All the action taking place in our second leg. Really some exciting moments. And of course, the Portuguese boys still up there at the top, still claiming the top spot. But Thiago Lima, obviously our season 1 winner, he didn't have such a great first week. We got to watch it. But in week 2, him and his teammate, Miguel Neto, they were just chasing off against one another for that first and second spot. And it's now become a race for them at the top. But the points, if you take a look at it as we move into round 3, all still pretty close. There's still an opportunity for anyone to go and grab the final top 3 spots.
I mean, I'm kind of sad that I missed out on that action from last week. I'm glad that I can be back for this week. Hungaroring in Hungary, one of the tight technical circuits that I do quite enjoy myself. And I think that this one is going to be action-packed. I heard the weatherman was telling us that because the two South Africans were back in the box, that there might be a chance of rain come race or quali. So at the moment, I see the clouds holding up, no rain coming down, but we might be getting a little bit of wet action here tonight.
So a little bit of twisty and turny and that potential wet action as well. Do you think we'll see a lot of bumper cars? You know that the GT4s, they like to knock each other around sometimes. Expecting a lot of that on this track, George?
I mean, it can go that way. There's a very dangerous turn 4 where if you do not hit your apex correctly, you can just get sent in all kinds of directions. Turn 2 and 3, also very important. I guess actually all the turns here are quite important when it comes down to technicality. As practice comes down, we're just waiting for that to time out before we go over to the quali session. And of course, just to remind the viewers that haven't joined in before or have joined in and have terrible memory like myself, the format for tonight's race will be a qualifying session that then determines the starting grid for 2 30-minute sprint races, and both sprint races count for points, Sam.
Both count for points, and of course all of these drivers want to get points on the board because this is the season 2 GT4 championship here at RCI. So what they want to do is they want to do as well as they can every week, because those points start adding up. And while it's nice to win races each week, it's even better to win the entire championship.
I mean, that's going to be first prize all the time. And we jump on board with Ryan Gill, of course, driving for Triple R, both yours and mine favorite teams in terms of colors. You know, the Miami blue and pink in the retro sort of theme, or bubblegum as we've referred to it before. But I mean, this is an interesting car choice because it is a lone Alpine on the track, and we don't get to see it too often getting picked up in the GT4 side. I like to call it the Mini, but it's obviously not a Mini, it's just small.
Fair enough, and we're now looking at Thiago Lima's Season 1's champion from Phoenix Racing, Portugal. Phoenix Racing has had such a super start to this series. Of course, Miguel Neto, who's currently sitting in the top spot in the points, he's also from Phoenix Racing. So it's now become this battle between the two teammates, and I'm pretty sure Thiago, he's going to want to retain his Season 1 championship. So he'll definitely, I think, be bringing some of that speed as he chases Miguel, but obviously it'll come down to qualifying as well. Last week, we saw them hold on to those top 2 qualifying spots. I think in week 1 as well, Miguel was able to claim the top spot as well. Do you think that for this qualifier, George, based on previous performance, will we see them up there?
I mean, I got to the track nice and early today. I wanted to prepare myself, and they've been pretty dominant in practice. Not that we often use practice as a reference point, but yeah, the Phoenix Racing Portugal boys have definitely been representing so far as the qualification starts out. And of course, Phoenix Racing Portugal out on the track first. Thiago Lima getting out nice and early, getting himself a nice little head start of the traffic behind. Sam, am I going crazy, or has this team decided to change their colors coming into this round?
It does seem like they've had a little makeup, makeup change. changed up their liveries a little bit.
Anything on a Porsche still looks good. I mean, I just I didn't know if I was going crazy, missing 1 week, and suddenly they've changed their clothing.
Changed their clothing, decided to shake it up for week 3. Completely fair. So you'll be able to spot the Phoenix Racing team in this blue, red, and white. Like you said, though, it always looks good on a Porsche.
I mean, you say the right things. Anything looks good in a Porsche, and I'm hoping that when it comes down to the race, we see a nice performance from the Porsches. They've been doing quite well in this GT4 championship, and I would be a liar to say that I don't have a little bit of a bias to my favorite manufacturer.
So we all know how you feel about the Porsches, and to be honest, that they've actually been doing really well. In fact, right now on the points board, the top 3 places all sitting there, all Porsches, and we've seen the Porsches up at the top. But what I'm quite fascinated about is that in 4th place right now on the points, Harry Conway with the Aston Martin doing a little sneaky, and we've obviously seen the BMWs start appearing as well. But for the most part, George, I'll give it to you. The Porsches have been dominating.
Yes, I mean, I totally expected, to be honest, as a Porsche fanboy, but it's nice to see. I'm glad to see it, and we're going to jump on board with that Phoenix Racing Portugal number 101 Tiago Lima to take us on a lap here at Hungaroring. Luckily enough for us, there's no official corner names. They're all pretty much numbered, but we'll give you a little talk through. Coming down into the braking zone for turn 1, got to hug that apex on the inside, try and extend out nice and wide, carry that speed, carry that momentum on the build-up for turn 2. Every single corner here is about nailing your apex as you go nice and wide for the entry. Try and hug the inside apex. Hug it, hug it, hug it. Keep on that line. And then this is the corner that normally causes a lot of chaos, turn 3. Got to just be careful with that inside apex. Make sure that you don't get sent to the moon. And then it's a nice rundown to what is again the dangerous corner of turn 4. You can see the back end trying to wrestle its way away from Tiago Lima as he then makes the inside apex for turn 5. And this is then the run down to the chicane again. You can't miss your braking point here. You've got to be careful. Got to make sure that you get in between the timing lines. Make sure you don't invalidate. So that looked pretty good coming out from Tiago. Then a left-hander. And this is the slightly tricky middle section. Again, quite high speed, medium speed, should I say, for the corners. Always hugging those apexes. Look at that. Inside apex once again. Carry it wide. A little tap on the brakes just to settle the rear end. Find the inside apex and extend to the outside. Making sure you don't run too wide and invalidate the lap. And then down the hill into another braking zone. A little bit off camber. You've got to be careful here. Nice and timed there by Tiago. He's managed to get it done. Then the penultimate corner, a little bit deep coming into that one. You can see how he's missed the inside apex, but there's almost 2 lines coming out of there, and it's not going to be the worst thing when you're trying to make moves because it sets you up then for the inside line coming down. Final corner, the inside right-hander, and then a dash down to the line, and the first time coming up a 1:53.031 for the Phoenix Racing Portugal 101, and his teammate Miguel Neto is going to go into a 1:52.5, so half a second quicker on the banker lap. Miguel Neto showing that other two. He just wants to take it off Tiago. He does not want to let his teammate get another season victory, does he?
Definitely not. And Miguel has had such a good run week 1, week 2 as well. We saw him qualifying high up. I think he's won most of the races as well, so he's feeling quite confident, and you can see it in those speeds. He's out to claim season 2. He wants it from Tiago.
It's always good to have hungry teammates going up against each other because it gives you good racing throughout the field. And of course, these two battling out up at the front of the championship standings, which we'll bring through before we go over to the race. Give a full rundown of the grid. Fimbris Casas in that number 10 for Pillars Racing. He's the front running Camaro at this point, sitting in 5th place, looking to get a good start as well here in the qualification. Of course, you're setting yourself up for the 2 30-minute races, so this quali counts a little bit more than just a regular qualification where you would have a quali before each race. You're setting yourself up here for 2 30-minute sprint races.
I know that you're a huge Porsche fan, but I would be curious to find out which. I know what the answer will probably be, but on a track like this, which of the cars do you keep your eye on? Which ones do you think handle this best?
I think the Aston Martins are going to be someone to keep an eye out on. I think they're a very well balanced car. These Camaros can also be pretty okay, I suppose. But yeah, I think the Aston Martins would probably be who I'd look out for. I don't know how the BMWs are going to do either, and we've got quite a couple of those in the field, so it'll be interesting to see where they stack up. As Diego Paul Fimbres Casas now comes down to the line, looking good to improve his lap time. Actually goes third fastest, 4/10 off the likes of Neto, but does set himself a decent lap time then as we jump towards Helicaglio, another Porsche to keep an eye out on. Sam?
Helicaglio's also had a really good showing throughout the last few weeks, and of course, I expect him to possibly be able to put in a decent time. Crozen now, one of the brothers, so we've got two brothers driving those BMWs. His brother currently sitting in P9, so he's going to be competing with him. I've created a sibling rivalry between the two. Not quite sure if they are super competitive, but I like to...
All siblings are super competitive, so I think that's okay.
The Crozen boys, I constantly like to point out which brother is beating which. So they both race for MKM Racing, both in the BMWs as well. And now over here, taking a look at Phil Roberts, George.
Yeah, Phil Roberts also coming across the line very shortly. Had a bit of a slower banker lap, goes across the line, does improve his time, but not good enough for a position. 154.810 coming out for Phil Roberts. So it's going to be an interesting race for a lot of people. It doesn't matter where you qualify. You're going to have someone that you're going to be battling it out with. And, just a 10th behind the likes of Ryan Gill. So the two of them might be looking for a little scrap on track. This is a circuit where consistency is king. So even if you don't have the greatest of qualies, I feel that other drivers possibly going to put a foot out of line. And that's easy 3 positions to make up. So you just got to put your head down. Not worry too much about the timing sheets in quali if you aren't on at the pace of everybody else, and know that there is going to be an opportunity to improve. Juraj Svensik in the 107. He's currently sitting in P11, making a dash down to the line. Let's see where he manages to improve to, and he does. Jumps up to P7 with a 153.076.
Just a fun question for you, George, before we get into it. In terms of this specific track, where do you think, when you're qualifying, which is the position on the grid you'd want to start at?
I mean, in my head, it's always at the front in P1 and 2, but it's either right at the front or right at the back. Mid-pack in any racing format is a storm of its own, and you've got a lot more factors to worry about. If you are starting towards the back of the grid, you can kind of wait for other drivers to maybe get a little bit antsy. We know it's a 30-minute sprint race. We know people are going to be pushing. So you're not in a terrible place to maybe capitalize on some of those moves that people are trying to make. It's all about getting the exit apex correct. You just want to be the driver that is setting yourself up for the next corner. And in this sort of scenario of racing, I think everybody's going to be looking towards the field, hoping that everybody gives each other room, gives each other that sort of gentleman's agreement out on the circuit. If I'm alongside you, don't just close the door on me. But it's a tough one to kind of call, because you want to make sure that you are in a place that enables you to battle it out.
For sure, and we got a chance to see one of the Maseratis a little bit earlier. Of course, we've heard rumors from the weatherman that maybe the clouds are coming. There might be a bit of rain. The Maseratis have impressed me. I got to be honest. Last week when you weren't here, I could not believe how phenomenally well they went on that track, and I was not expecting it from them. This is very twisty, turny, though, lots of rain. Do you think that they'll cope? Because, I mean, when we look at it, by rights, the Maserati shouldn't, and yet these drivers, the two that are racing them, do such a phenomenal job.
The Maseratis are a hard car to drive because you don't have that assistance of the traction control that the other GT4s have. So it's almost a bit of a flex when you pick one of those up.
Definitely a flex, because they drive them really well as well. I mean, I know last week when Mike was here, we were quite hard on the vehicles before they started, and we're looking at one of them now, Saz Kola, and we were quite tough on them. And then the drivers were finishing on the top 10, and we had to we had to swallow our words basically, George, because they had performed so well. So I'm excited to see what happens today.
I mean, it's always the case for me. Whatever I say gets proven differently out on the circuit. Neto has gone quicker as well, 152.230 coming out for him. So he's, trying to get that half a second deficit up against his teammate Lima. Looking at Lawrence for the Connection Loss Racing team, yet to set a time here. 4 minutes to go on the clock. Maybe doing a last to first attempt again into Hungaroring as the Connection Loss Racing 171 makes his way around. Probably needs to get a banker lap in here at some point, Sam. It's going to be critical. He's going to have one or so laps to go after this. And it looks like Lawrence making a dash down to the line now. Where does he set himself up to start? And it will be P7, 153.031 getting set on the timing sheet.
I mean, I feel we had this conversation before everyone got in their cars and we were chatting about it, and I mentioned it to you. I mean, it's no secret I'm a huge fan of Martin Lawrence and the way he drives. Last week, didn't have a chance to do qualifiers, so started at the back of the grid for both races, and both races was able to move himself up into the top 10. And I just thought that was extremely impressive. I've seen him race in other RCI competitions, and he just always does such a good job if he's in that mid pack of pushing his way into the lead. So I'm excited to see what he pulls out tonight.
Ooh.
Because his racing has done him well.
It has, and doing well as well. Thiago Lima to the line now. Oh, so close. I thought he might have had a pole-sitting lap coming out there. 152.305, just 700ths behind his teammate now, Neto. So the Phoenix Racing Portugal team together, I mean, they're half a second up on that third position spot at the moment. Definitely got some pace. The practice session was not lying to us. And just in addition to that talk on the Maseratis, no ABS in those cars either, as Harry Conway passes me his post-it notes across the comms box. So that Maserati is definitely a car that is a flex to drive compared to what everybody else is doing.
It is a flex, and they do so well. Maybe Martin Lawrence isn't my favorite driver anymore. Maybe I swap it out for one of the Maserati drivers. Who knows what could happen today?
I mean, it would not be a racing scenario if we weren't allowed to just choose our favorites on the day. And if the Maseratis come to play, well, who's to blame us, right?
Definitely. And now we're looking at Luke Wigg. He's also done a really good job. I know in week 1, he was able to pull himself up from last place, finished in a really good position, had lots of fans on Racing Club International TV supporting him. Had a good race last week. I think it was the first race. Second race was a little bit touch and go, had a couple of issues, got himself involved in a few bumps, which pushed him back. But driving that Audi, I do think he's one to watch. I've seen him do some really nice moves, and it's exciting when he's got so many fans coming to support him and they're cheering him on for what he's doing, and that also always gets me hyped.
Of course it's good to have fans. They're the ones that you are driving for to, I mean, you're driving for yourself, but I would be a liar to say that it's not nice to see the hype in the chat for what you're doing out on the circuit. And also one of the lone Audis on the field. I don't believe we have another Audi. Luke Wigg over the line does jump up to... No, it doesn't jump up. Stays in P17. Jarzabowski in that one of the Maseratis, that number 36, in unlucky for some, P13.
While we're talking about the Maserati, let me draw your attention to those qualifying times right now. It turns out another racing driver from Phoenix Racing, Consecao, he's popped up, moved into that P3. So it seems that the Phoenix Racing boys, they're all competing with one another today to see who can start highest on the grid. And Martin Lawrence, we spoke about him earlier, he's up in P4 now, to keep an eye on him.
I mean, we like to see a Porsche dominance, or some of us like to see a Porsche dominance in quali, and of course the Phoenix Portugal team rocking out in those Caymans, doing a good job at representing my favorite manufacturer, Grozen, one of the other brothers, starting in 15th at the moment, going to cross the line to see if he's going to improve. Doesn't, is going to, well, he sets a 153.271, doesn't improve on his position. So that sibling rivalry quite a way off from his brother in P8. So, Sam, you started the sibling rivalry. Now it's going to be here for the whole season.
Definitely. I mean, last week we weren't 100% sure if they were siblings, so we were calling them potential brothers. I'm going to keep that running for the rest of the championship.
Oh, so we haven't actually had confirmation
No, we have had
of their relation?
confirmation. They are definitely brothers. They've confirmed it for me, but potential brothers just makes it sound a little bit more spicy. So we're running with that. We're now watching.
I mean, it
Thiago
feels like
Lima.
there's a drama alert behind that. So Thiago Lima now 2/10 up on his lap time coming into the final corner here. Is this going to be a time that's going to pop pole and get pole on the final lap? Is going to come over the line, and it's going to be 0.003 of a second that separates himself and Neto. You could not get closer than that. That's not even an eyelash between two cars.
Not even an eyelash. How competitive from Neto and Lima, these two. I'm excited now for the race, if this is how close we're getting. Now one of the potential brothers on the track. Let's see if he can get a little bit better than P8. That's what he's aiming for now as he comes into that second last turn.
Second last turn, final lap to set a time, the number 82 NKM M4 going to be dashing towards the line, 0.08 of a second behind pole. So, I mean, first down to 14th, separated by less than a second, and is going to come over the line, gets up to P5, and that's exactly what would have been desired. 0.6 behind the pole sitter. But I mean, Sam, that is incredible coming out from the qualifying session. Everybody's time's relatively close to one another.
Relatively close to one another and looking very competitive. I think, but before we get into this, we definitely need to take a look at our standings so far after the 2 legs, because this is what it's to play for, right? You want to be at the top at the end of the championship.
Indeed. And there we can see them. Miguel Neto sitting on 249 points in first, with his teammate just hot on his tails. 204 points behind. I said tails instead of heels, and I'm just going to run with it. But that number 101 from Thiago Lima chasing down. This race is going to be an interesting one to see where they end up. Sitting in third place for the championship, Jesperi Helicalio. Closing down that gap is Harry Conway sitting in fourth place. Fifth with Martin Lawrence. Sixth, Arteberg Etan, and 7th place goes to Crozen, 8th to Chris Rubelar, 9th to Alexander Karsten, and sitting in P10, Alan Garland. And I mean, if you look at those points between them, Etan and Crozen sitting on tied points, and then Harry Conway and Martin Lawrence separated by just 6 points between them. So it's very close looking at the top 10.
Very close and very competitive, and based off what we just saw in qualifiers, this is going to be a very competitive leg 3, because it seems that everyone has come out to play today.
Sitting in P11, Consacao, of course, qualifying up in the top 3 this time around for the start of this race. And the 2 races indeed using the same qualifying time. Sitting in P12, the other Crozen brother, sitting on 92 points. 84 points for Svensek. Jarzabowski on 81 points, just 3 points behind in P14. Quadrilio on 75 points, just 2 points ahead of Billy Octane in P16. Courier in P17. Fabian Schmidberger sitting in 18th. And Diego Por Fimbres Casas in 19th, just 3 points ahead of Ryan Gill, down in P20.
There we go. You've got your standings so far. We are moving. There's a bunch more here as well that G will take you through in a little bit. But of course, this is what it's all to play for, is you want to get points on the board because you want to win the season, of course. And a couple of wins along the way, that helps as well.
McLaughlin and Macaulay in P21 and 22. Luke Wigg sitting in P23. Phil Roberts in 24th, 25th to Neil Pimlott. Tom Bryant in 26th. Scola in 27th, 28th for Smith. Haasvoort in 29th and Conior in 30th. I see a lot of rivalries between nations coming out in these standings. The Scots versus the Brits as well coming down there. Then sitting in P31, Secure. And then in 32nd, Marcinak. 33rd goes to Linu. Schmidt in 34th, and wrapping it up with Serve in 35th. So those 3 drivers at the end not picking up any points. Not sure if they have signed out of the championship as well. But, maybe want to get some points on those boards if they haven't. Otherwise, it is going to be a lonely zeros club for those guys here in the GT4 Pro.
We're getting ready to start our races today. 23 cars on the grid. Harry Conway wasn't in qualifiers, so he'll be starting from the back, maybe doing a comeback kid story. We'll keep an eye on him.
Got to keep an eye for sure, because certainly got himself up in the championship standings as we just await our drivers on the grid, ready for them to get going with their formation lap ahead of the first 30-minute sprint race. It looks like the skies have managed to hold off on any of the rain that was slightly predicted by our weatherman. But, these things can change. That grid walk will be, of course, Neto and Lima starting on the front row. Consacao starting on the second row alongside Lawrence. Crozen and Correa wrapping up on the third row. Helicalio starts in P7 alongside Fimbris Casas. Ninth will be Svensik, and then of course rounding out the top 10, Laurie McCaughlin. So some good battles should come down in the front order. Starting in P11, you've got Sokola. P12 is Ertan. 13th, Jarzabowski. 14th will be Quadrillo. Crozen, that's Rince Crozan, one of the brothers, starts P15. Billy Octane in P16. Luke Wigg starts in P17 as our drivers start to peel themselves away. Martin Smith starts in P18, P19 for Hasefuert. Ryan Gill in P20 ahead of Tom Bryant in 21st. Phil Roberts in 22nd. And then, of course, Harry Conway joining the field and peeling off. He has to now start right at the back of the order. Is that, have I got that right?
You have got that right. He'll be starting at the back because he didn't set a qualifying time. What we saw Martin Lawrence do last week as well. Martin Lawrence able to push himself up into the top 10. Harry Conway's got that massive mountain to climb as well. But of course, the real story here is this Phoenix Racing from Portugal. Look at them. They're going to be starting in P1, 2, and 3. All those new liveries, all in their Porsches, lined up, getting ready to go. They are going to be fighting it out. The teammates constantly competing with one another to try and get on the podium.
Oh, I mean, it's a stunning sort of photo shoot opportunity for the Phoenix Racing Portugal team, having their cars up in P1, 2, and 3 to start off both races. They are going to be able to then work together at the start, which is probably something that's going to be the toughest part of these races. A lot of cars in a very, very small, tight circuit. You got to make sure that you're putting yourself in the right position, because if you're not, you are going to lose out big time to the field chasing down behind you. What a beautiful view it is from the back of the Cayman's wing, as you just see a field of GT4s behind. And of course, this is season 2 of the GT4 Championship here at Racing Club International. My name is George Smith, and joined in the box by Sam Wright. We got Stewie on the cameras, our favorite cameraman. Don't tell all the others.
That's cheeky. And don't forget, if you want to find out a little bit more about the timings and what's been happening, ! timings in the chat. That'll give you everything you need. And make sure that you're following Racing Club International, ! socials, so you can find out more. And of course, if you think that you should be on the track racing all of these drivers, ! Discord, join the RCI Discord and find out how you can compete.
That is what we want to encourage. More drivers, more people in seat. Doesn't matter where you come from or where you are in sim racing. There will be a tier that is available for you to get into. Of course, the splits often in our championships have multiple grading systems in them, and you can find yourself up against drivers of a similar caliber. Of course, these pro splits we love to broadcast over on this YouTube channel. So if you like the racing action and you want to see more, subscribe to the channel. This is where it happens. Put notifications on, because it's almost, if not every day, every second day or every week, we've got something new and fresh. And here we go, Sam. We're about to go lights green for race 1 of this third round at the Hungaroring. It is a front row lockout for the Phoenix Racing Portugal team. and they've got the backup in the third row as well. Lights are green, we are a go, and it's a dash down to turn 1, and cars and drivers are 3 abreast already coming down into the braking zone. The Phoenix Racing Portugal team wants to work together here, and it looks like the BMW is making a little sandwich of Lima there in the back road. Just, I mean, you have to just keep your eyes out for where drivers are going to put themselves, and it looks like a very neat and tidy start from everyone giving each other ample room. This inside apex going to be critical for everybody to try and follow along with, as the Phoenix Racing Portugal boys get themselves out into a nice first, second and third coming into T4.
So I think you saw there, obviously, Crozen and Lawrence immediately knew that the Phoenix Racing team was going to try and work together to just push themselves out in the front, and we saw that little sandwich as they tried to stop it. Unsuccessful, though, for them. So Phoenix Racing currently 1, 2, and 3. Nito, Lima, and Consecao set themselves up quite nicely. Lawrence and Crozen stay in 4th and 5th, but a really nice, clean start from all our drivers.
Very nice indeed, as everybody makes their way through the chicane. Some drivers 2 cars aside, and it's a difficult place to try and get within the track limits doing so. So everybody giving themselves the space that they need. Of course, it's not like an endurance race where you've got a lot of time to work with. You kind of got to be on the on that accelerator pedal as early as you can, but at the same time making sure that they're not taking themselves out of the running. As we follow along in our heli-cam, getting a nice overview of these battles. Crozen on the inside there, Billy Octane might be making up some positions. Bryant then going to be also trying to do what he can. Harry Conway already making his way up through the field into P21. So, of course, he started from the back. Crozen and Octane still going at it. It looks like Crozen actually going to get that inside line, and that's going to work out for him, forcing that McLaren of Octane to take an alternate line round. And he's now under attack from that Maserati of Sokola.
All of these cars, if you take a look at the timing, all of these drivers so close together. They're all kind of still bunched up. We haven't seen anyone really just move away. So I think it's going to pretty much go like this for a little while longer as everyone battles it out. But it just shows how competitive it's got, because our racing drivers just continue to stay so close together and are already starting to try and make their moves.
Oh, there's a little bit of a contact coming there from, it looks like Smith as well, missed the braking point, went onto the inside curb, and he will be in a bad position. It was Smith then that came across the grass, did make contact with another car, but unfortunately for him, actually ended up spinning himself. The other drivers slightly less affected, but of course, a little bit of damage coming down from a car coming in like a missile, not what you want in the start of your race. And poor old Luke Wigg here seems to have had the worst race of them all. He's all the way down the field, sitting in P23 as Harry Conway comes through. I think that Luke Wigg had to go into the pits or start from the pits. We'll just have to get an update on that. And now it's going to definitely be a big challenge for that Audi, the number 49, to see what they can do. But look at this, Harry Conway in that Triple R trying to make his way through the field. He's doing good. He's up into P19 now, so definitely showing the pace.
Definitely showing the pace, showing that he could be the comeback kid today. So we'll keep an eye on him. Look how close it is, though, at the top there between our top 5, top 6. We're looking at P6 now. As I said that, we've moved on to Helicalio. So Helicalio is an interesting one for me because he's actually sitting 3rd on the points board now in terms of the championship as a whole. But he's quietly got to that 3rd place. He has good, consistent races, but I feel like we don't really give him enough attention considering how high he's sitting, because he's clearly banking the points and really has consistently good races, but maybe not seeing him on the podiums, not seeing him in those epic battles sometimes means that we don't notice that he's just steadily climbing up the top, waiting to take one of the Portuguese races off of their position.
Yeah, I've read a couple of times drivers just say that consistency wins championships, and with him only having 1 podium, he's definitely made sure he's in good points paying positions, race in, race out. Of course, 2 races per week. Each of the 30-minute sprints counts towards it, and you can't afford to have one of those as a bad race. Onto that splitter cam from Harry Conway, the number 28, the car to kind of watch out at the moment. We know that he's got the pace. He's sitting in P4 of the championship, would have qualified higher, started at the back, and he's putting some pressure on. Once this inside line of the Apex going to bully the Porsche in front. Hasefoot doing a good job to give him space, but is going to allow Harry Conway to go on the outside. This is going to put him onto the inside line for this nice middle sector, and a brilliant move getting done by the Triple R number 28 as he gets himself up into P18 and is in a good place to now just hold off on that as well. That Porsche behind him is Hasefoot is going to be under pressure from Roberts, and that's going to keep his hands nice and full. Roberts with a big send up on the inside. He's going to miss his braking points, and he's going to manage to thread the needle. We're going to get a race replay of this on board with Phil Roberts. This is called a panic move. You've missed the braking point. You've got another car in front. Whee! He manages to avoid all contact and is going to bleed those positions out. But good job at him at spotting the gap that he needed to go into. And you often say don't turn into the racing line if you are in a bad position. But for him, there were cars on the left side. It was going to be controversy if he went that way. And he did a good job to avoid that contact.
Very good save from him. And of course, really good driving from Harry Conway. He's up there now. He gets to fight it out with his teammate Ryan Gill. Already moved up to P18 after starting in P23. So good job to him. Currently, though, we're watching McLaughlin race from Grey Space Racing. He's sitting in P9. This is very competitive, George. These cars are very close together. There's lots of overtaking happening. No one wants to give up. Everyone's putting pressure on one another. This is very exciting to see our drivers being so aggressive today.
This is a great race. I mean, we thought that maybe there would be a little bit more elbows out, a little bit more of that bumper cars-esque vibe, but race one has been very clean and tidy. Everybody giving each other a very nice attempt at being able to get some good points on the board, so you cannot fault anybody's driving so far. Helicalio here in P8. He's got the likes of McLaughlin putting that pressure on in that Aston Martin behind. And, I'm going to have to eat some words because it is the BMWs of Lawrence and Crozen that are chasing down on the Porsches in P1, 2, and 3. And then our first Aston Martin sitting then in 7th place, the car that we're looking at behind on this rear view facing cam. The number 56 here, just trying to keep themselves ahead. Helicalio needs to make sure that they do not give the room or the opportunity up for McLaughlin.
So for the first two legs of the championship, I mean, Martin Lawrence, I think in week one, had a really good starting position on the grid. Both races got himself involved in a couple of bumps right at the beginning, which means he got dropped right back down to the bottom of the pack, had to move his way to mid. Last week, I've spoken about this lots. He pulled himself up from the last position all the way into the top 10. This is the first time in this championship that we've had a chance to see Martin Lawrence start high up on the grid and actually contend in the top. So I'll be interested to see how he does, if he's as aggressive as what he normally is when he's at the back of the pack. And I'm also interested to see how Helicalio is going to do. You can see him in that lime green, I think it is, Porsche. And I'm interested because he's always had these consistent races. So I'm pretty sure he'll be moving himself up a little bit as well.
Well, you wanted to see what Lawrence would be doing, starting to apply that pressure onto the back of Consacao. Connection Loss Racing in this 171 M4 BMW going to go up against the Phoenix Racing Portugal, or one of the Phoenix Racing Portugal Porsches in just a second, making sure that they're carrying a lot more momentum and starting to become a bit of a bully then on the back end of Consacao. That 29 Porsche starting to feel the heat, the pressure, and Lawrence getting a nice run in the mid sector. Needs to try and keep it neat and tidy, try and get alongside into one of these braking zones. Going to be sitting in the available slipstream as the defense comes out from Consacao. He's going to go for the inside line. It's Martin Lawrence forced to go pretty much on the normal line that you would carry through. So maybe being able to carry slight more momentum, but having to brake as well just to make no contact. The car behind always responsible for making sure that no contact is incurred. And Lawrence, one of those drivers, you've talked about it. He's been here a lot in the Racing Club International scene, and a very gentleman-like driver as well. Will only attempt to move when it is safe to do so, and will do so fairly. Look at this battle going on between the two. The squeeze coming out from the Porsche, going to force Martin Lawrence onto the inside line across the track as Consacao into the inside apex. Not the ideal line for the 171, but still going to do a good job at just trying to keep that pressure on. Nice defense coming out from the number 29. Just a little bit of a squeeze coming down, forcing Lawrence to go into the inside. Not being able to carry that momentum has given a slight cars gap between them. And this battle's definitely not done yet, Sam.
Definitely not done. Kansakau's doing such a good job, though, of keeping Lawrence in his place. Because Lawrence is, this I've seen before. We've all seen this. He puts this pressure on. And this pressure sometimes continually kind of knocking on the door can make a driver make a mistake. But Kansakau is saying, you know what, I can hear you banging, but I got my headphones on. I'm not going to be paying attention to you. I'm going to keep racing my race. I'm going to stay on my lines, and you're not coming past me.
What a view it is from the rear splitter here of the Cayman. You've just got a camera full of BMW M4 grille. And of course, this is working out brilliantly for the teammates of Kansakau. Neto and Lima able to extend and stretch their legs out as P3 just keeps that battle going with Lawrence behind. Lawrence then trying to get past, wants to have a stab at those leaders, but is currently being what would feel like a little bit blocked off. But it's not, it's just great racing coming out from the two drivers, and that's just costing both of them on catching up to the drivers in front. And the driver that's benefiting most from this is going to be Kansakau, because it's his teammates that are in P1 and 2. Looking at our Maserati boys, there's a little battle that will go down between them. They're currently sitting in 15th and 16th as Siskola starts to apply that pressure onto the back of Billy Octane in that number 33 McLaren. Coming out the final corner now. Good draft coming out from the Maserati on that loud pedal. Very wide coming out as we see Octane going defensive. Looks for that inside line. Wants to force that Maserati to go round the outside. And it's not quite going to be the place to make a move just yet. So Billy Octane survives just slightly. But this 146 is just putting that pressure on, isn't he?
He is definitely putting the pressure on Billy Octane. My favorite driver name. I think his parents, George, you've mentioned it before, his parents have done such a good job. As I said, I was just watching the replay here of Martin and Kansakau still battling it out. But I think Billy Octane really does have the best name. I can't figure out if he should be a racing driver or the leader of a punk band.
And it was actually a move that got done. Lawrence actually manages to get past Kansakau. So that little battle is done and dusted. We see that Martin Lawrence managed to get the move done as it's now Kansakau chasing down onto the back of Lawrence.
Look at Lawrence. So he's going to, I have no doubt he'll open up now. This is where it becomes a hassle because he wants to catch Neto and Lima. That's what he wants right now. And he's now been given the space to race ahead. Kansakau is going to be chasing him, but look how close Crozen is, because that battle between Lawrence and Kansakau gave Crozen a chance to move up as well, which means Crozen's now going to be breathing down the neck of Kansakau, and he's got himself in a situation where while he's playing catch up, he's got to worry about what's happening behind.
Oh, look at this. Tom Bryant picking up a drive-through penalty. That will be for exceeding track limits. And with 16 minutes of the race done, only halfway done into the sprint race, Bryant has unfortunately then used up all his track warnings allowable to him. So Tom Bryant's going to have to be going into the pits to serve that drive-through penalty. And it means that all of his warnings are used up for the duration of this race as well. So puts that car out of the track limits once more, will be punished again without warning. So that's not a great place to be with still 15 minutes to go in the race. But as you could see, a very gentlemanlike approach to allowing the cars that were putting pressure on behind to just get through, because he knew he was going to go into the pit box to serve that penalty regardless.
We can see now we're watching one of the brothers, Crozen, battling to just catch Kansakau. Kansakau's been in this position only a few minutes before, where another BMW was on his bum, and now he's got to contend with Crozen, who desperately wants to move himself up into P4.
Crozen definitely got the pace here. Menno Crozen, of course, in that number 82, trying to do what Lawrence just did. And Kansakau will have that at the back of his head, that he already lost out of position to one of these BMW M4s. And immediately in your mind, you go, oh, is this a car that's just better here? Does it have a little bit of a slight advantage? I have set a good qualifying lap, but in the race setup, I've already lost the place to one. So he's going to be thinking about that as Laurie McLaughlin puts that pressure onto Helicalio once again. I do like that this Aston Martin has the 007 number plates. I mean, that couldn't just be coincident. That must be planned.
Oh, that is 100% planned, and I love it so much. Even in that nice sort of, I mean, it's gray space racing, but it's that beautiful gray livery as well,
I,
almost
I call
silver.
I call that gray Nardo gray, and it's probably not Nardo gray. It's just a word that I once learned to describe gray, and I just use it all the time.
I have never heard that word in my life.
Well, I mean, I think it's a paint color for a car, Nardo gray. I mean, I
Nardo
probably
gray.
I could be right. Please don't quote me and then be wrong somewhere else. To be honest.
It made me think of sharks because of Sharknado. And I mean, sharks, that beautiful silver gray in the water. I suppose we could go there. I'm stretching. My arm is out and it's reaching as far as it can to justify
I
this
love I
ego.
love the fact that you tried to save my description of the color anyway, and it looks like a big send coming out from another BMW here as they come down to the first braking zone for T1 Quadrilio. Oh, I mean, it's a nice drift, but it's definitely not the way to take that corner.
Definitely not the way to take that corner. Not going to be too happy about that. We're back with the Sharknado Gray Space Racing. You can watch the 007 Aston Martin currently sitting in P9 and obviously just trying to get Helicarlio, put the pressure on Helicarlio, get him to move. Meanwhile, Helicarlio is more focused on Correa in front of him. So there's a nice little battle here between P7, 8, and 9. Nice close quarter fight going on.
I mean, that's what it's all about. You start to put the pressure on the driver in front of you. They've got a battle on their hands. They have to go and plan their next move. And when you're sitting behind a pack like that, you get to plan every move. As Sekola still tries to get past Billy Octane. He's done a good job at holding the Maserati at bay. And very soon, the number 36 Maserati is going to join in with them as well.
Taking a look now at this race replay, you see a little knock and tickle going on there, George.
Yeah, I mean, kind of just slotted in through the braking zone. Or Ryan Gill, he's also picked up a drive-through penalty, as well as Phil Roberts there. And we said it was tight and twisty here at the Hungaroring, and it's definitely starting to prove to be that way for the Triple R boys, as they have been awarded themselves some drive-through penalties as well. Menno Krozen still trying to get past Kansakau, hasn't yet found the read on the Porsche, and that's allowed Lawrence to extend that gap out from P4. So Lawrence sitting in P3, 2.3 seconds down the road, Kansakau, and then Krozen just sitting on that rear splitter, currently 3/10 as per the last timing sheet update. And the MKM Racing number 82 wants to get past, wants to find a kink in this armor, and wants to just keep that pressure up. Force the error, force someone to extend those track limits, force them to get a drive-through penalty. It's all the name of the game here. It's worked out for other drivers before, and if someone's racing a race that you just can't find a way through, make sure that you're putting them in a place that compromises them.
Oh, for sure. And it's interesting because I said that I thought, as we watch what's going on here, but I thought that this would be a bit more bumper car-ish. And while we haven't seen the bumper cars, what we have seen is, and I'm sure, George, you can relate, when you were younger and you were using the bumper cars and your mom used to shout at you for bullying your little brother or sister, those drive-through penalties a little bit like your mom shouting at you for the bullying.
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. We've all been in those moments, and it is Fimbris Casas in that Camaro that is putting that pressure then onto Krozen. We saw Krozen messing up the chicane, and that has allowed the number 10 Camaro to just get a little bit closer there. And Kansakau's going to love this because, well, you know, the pressure's now off. Looking at Billy Octane, we're riding on board with him, looking back at Sekola. And of course, Jarzabowski just behind the two Maseratis making their way through the field. Those are the two drivers playing this on hard mode. No ABS, no traction control in their GT4s, but arguably one of the best sounding cars on the grid. At some point, I know Stewie's going to give us a little onboard with them, and we'll be able to just appreciate the screams of those Maseratis.
We'll appreciate the screams of the Maseratis, but before we do that, can we appreciate Billy Octane's incredible driving here? Because both those Maseratis have been harassing him for at least 2-3 laps, and he has just kept cool, and he has not let the pressure get to him, and he has not allowed them to get in front of him either. So good driving from him to keep them out of his P14.
I mean, Billy has probably taken his fist to the rear view mirror and made sure that there's nothing that's there to bother him. You know, if you can't see it, it doesn't bother you. And he's just keeping his head down as we go on board with the number 36 Maserati. I may have oversold the sound of it, but I hope that, I quite like the sound, and I hope that the viewers like the sound as well.
Giving you a little moment to enjoy the screams. George, hyped up for you. There we go. On board with the Maseratis right now. Still chasing Billy Octane. And while that is all happening at the top there, Casas is still fighting it out with Crozen. So Kantikaz had a chance to move forward a little bit. But at the moment, P1, P2 firmly held by the Phoenix Racing team.
Sorry, I was just taking a moment to just enjoy the Maserati. You know, I feel like it needs to get up to revs. It needs to be able to downshift for the appreciation to come in. But certainly a difficult car to drive. We said it during qualifying. People that are picking this are definitely just flexing out at their ability to race under pressure without the assists that the modern GT4 cars are normally equipped with. So for them, it's all about trying to get as many points on the board whilst upsetting drivers that have those modern assists coming down. McLaughlin in the 007 Aston Martin, putting that pressure onto Hilicalio as Courier is also under pressure there in that 977 round the outside, perhaps. Hilicalio going to go, thinks better of it, has to tuck back in behind, otherwise would have given up that position in that inside line to the number or the 007 here of McLaughlin, and the three of them are certainly now starting to dash it down to the line. 8 minutes 23 on the clock remaining. Up at the front, you said it, the Phoenix Racing 1, 2 of Neto and Lima have just run away from where they need to be. Lawrence done a good job to catch back up to the likes of Lima. Lima has been left in the dust of the teammate Neto. And in the mid-pack here, this is the battle that we're looking at. It's Crozen, Menno Crozen, one of the brothers, trying to get past the likes of, or defend off against Casas. That Camaro looks very menacing in its size, quite a big looking GT4 car, but not too big compared to the M4. I always love seeing the Camaro versus the Alpine on the circuit, because the Alpine being a tiny little, very cute car. And I'm just saying that because Ryan Gill is driving it.
Yes, Ryan Gill's car is cute. This battle is very interesting to me because Crozen's eyes are obviously on Consacao. He desperately wants to overtake him, but I don't think I'm sure he's looking in his rearview mirror, but it almost feels like the moment he makes his move, Casas is going to be coming in there as well. Consacao is just hoping that he can get away from them. I'm sure he's looking in his rearview mirror going, please, please, just, I need to go faster. Get me away from these two. I mean, that must be quite scary looking at these two giants, in my opinion. That's what it must look like in his rearview mirror. Not the cute Ryan Gill that you may be more looking forward to.
I mean, Ryan Gill is definitely very cute. His car's cute as well. Look at it. The little number 23 Triple R Alpine, currently in a battle against Phil Roberts. And I know the two of them were talking about it. Alpine versus Janetta. And the two of them just having their own scrap out towards the back of the pack. Doesn't matter where you are. I mean, both of them have picked up track limit warnings anyway, and now have to behave themselves. So they have to make sure that they're keeping it within the track limits. Of course, Ryan Gill, one of our commentators over here for Roberts, also involved with Racing Club International. And the two of them allowing themselves some time to race out in the series. Always nice to see. Menno Crozen doesn't have the same sort of mindset here, doesn't have a drive-through warning to their name, and Ruben trying to make sure that they can, or it's Ruben Consacao here that is trying to just stay ahead of the likes of Crozen and Fimbris Casas. 5 minutes to go on the clock. You know that the Phoenix Racing Portugal team, if they are all in a voice chat together, they're just saying, hold out, make sure we get these cars to the line in these positions will be great for our team. And I feel like Consacao has the biggest plates ahead, or very late coming into that apex, has allowed the likes of Crozen to have a little look coming in. But the number 29, we talked about two exits and entries into that penultimate corner, and it's worked out in Consacao's favor. And I think that's because Crozen and Fimbris Casas are battling it out so hard behind.
Definitely. So he stays in P4. But as I say that they're making their moves now, they want to try and get past him with only 5 minutes left. This is now the time to do it.
Ooh, defense is on full defense mode as Consacao makes sure that those inside apexes are not available coming into the braking zone for turn 2. Needs to make sure that they keep the BMW and the Camaro behind. Crozen and Fimbris Casas want to get past, want to get these positions, but Consacao wants to hold on to that P4, wants to secure the points into the first sprint race here, and comes through turn 4 a little bit sideways coming through, in fact, and that has backed up both the BMW behind. Oh, this is going to get heated as we see the Camaro now challenging alongside. Nope, decides Berovit, tucks in behind as they come into the chicane, and Consacao is under a lot of pressure here from the number 82 and the number 10. Both of those drivers have done a great job at keeping Consacao honest. Crozen has been looking for that gap to slot themselves in through, but it just not appeared to be something that they can take just yet. So a good drive coming out from Ruben Consacao for the moment.
You saw that defensive drive from Consacao, and to be honest, I think it was a little bit like throwing chum in the water to Crozen.
I like that analogy for it. Definitely something to keep an eye out. Sokola here on the replay as they chase down. It looked like Sokola had lost a lot of time previously coming down here, but the one Maserati that we've kept an eye out on still doing an okay thing, trying to keep that pressure onto the back of Harry Conway. Conway has done great coming up into P16. Now it's a triple R sandwich with a Maserati meet in between. The number 36 of Jazabowski is under threat from the likes of Conway, whilst trying to find a way past Octane, who has just not yet yielded that position. And the Triple R team definitely can work this in their favor. They've got the car advantage. Can Conway find a way past that Maserati whilst the likes of Billy Octane stays ahead? Round the outside, Harry Conway going to have a look here, trying to get alongside to set up for the inside line of the next corner. Slightly loses the back end and isn't able to do so out of turn 1. But Harry Conway is on full attack mode right now, and this is going to create breathing room for Billy Octane as Conway just keeps that pressure on the back of Jazabowski.
Keeping the pressure on the back there, Billy Octane has handled the pressure on his back for most of this race, has not lost that P14 spot to those Maseratis, and Harry Conway coming all the way up from the back of the grid to now be contending for P15.
It's not an easy track to make overtakes on, and the drivers that we've been watching here have made very few errors out on the circuit. That's often where you make the positions up if you're at the back, because someone has made a big mistake, or a couple of drivers have made a big mistake, but it's been a good... Ooh, there's the lack of TC coming out for Jazabowski in that number 36. Harry Conway not in a position to really have a look out of the exit of the chicane, but keeping the pressure on as we look at McLaughlin. Having a look here on the likes of Helicalia, also maybe just cook that braking point coming into the chicane. Contact being made, going to back off entirely and might lose out on a little bit of time as our race controller just updates us to let us know that our leaders are on the final lap. This is going to be the final shoot down. Ertan going to try round the outside. Not quite going to be able to make that stick a little contact coming in, forcing them to go a little bit too wide. But it is the final lap out here for race 1 of the 2-part sprint series for season 2 in the GT4 championship. Round 3 at Hungaroring. What a cracker it has been so far. Jazabowski has lost that position to Conway. That pressure has worked out. Now can the braking zone work out for the Aston Martin of Conway? The 36 trying to keep a nose in there, isn't going to be able to keep the pressure on to the back of Conway, and Conway is going to get through and start to look towards Octane, but I don't think there's going to be enough time in this lap to get that done.
Crozen is still there on Consacao's rear, but I don't know if he's going to be able to do it. He has been battling here for so long throughout this race, desperately wanting to overtake, but Ruben is doing a phenomenal job of defending his position in P4, the Phoenix Racing driver, who is making sure he does not want the BMW or the Camaro to come past him, and really has defended so well. He's just got to keep going for a little while longer. Can he do it, George?
I mean, the leaders are going to come up to the line shortly. This is the last dash coming down. It looks like Crozen has their hands full with Fimbres Casas. Miguel Neto for Phoenix Racing Portugal in that number 43, out through the final corner, down to the checkered flag, secures another victory here in the GT4 Sprint Cup. Thiago Lima is going to go over in second place. So the Portugal Racing Phoenix team just looking really, really solid. Martin Lawrence, what a great drive coming out to wrap up a P3 for Connection Lost. Consacao down to the line will take home P4. Crozen will get across the line in P5. Fimbres Casas in P6. Courier finishes 7th. Helicalio 8th. McLaughlin in 9th. Fensick over the line in 10th. Billy Octane stays ahead of his teammates. Harry Conway will take home P14. Conway 15th. Jazabowski finishes 16th. Sokola 17th. Hasefoort in that Porsche, the number 20, is going to cross over the line in 19th. Martin Smith, who had a bit of an arguably bad start for themselves, we saw them coming across the grass, getting spun around, will finish in P19. And then Ryan Gill and Phil Roberts, they're still racing it out, the number 23 and the 225. Who goes where? Ryan Gill with an ultimate line on the inside of that apex. Can the Janetta carry a little bit more speed? They are going to go across the line, almost side by side, but not quite. Ryan Gill wraps up P20. Phil Roberts 21st. Bryant going to come over the line in P22. And then Wig wraps up with P23. What a phenomenal race for race 1. And of course, you guys, the viewers, don't go anywhere, because that's only one race of 2 that we've got this evening. And we will be going over to that shortly. Sam? Oh,
I mean,
that was
so
nuts.
absolutely not. So impressed with Consacao, how he maintained his cool throughout that race, where he had Crozen and then Casas right there trying to challenge him. He didn't let them get to him. He just kept going, drove a little bit defensively, finishing in P4, but also to Billy Octane, because he had a similar situation where he had those Maseratis chasing him for a very long time, very close, also just didn't crack under pressure, stayed in that cool zone and was able to maintain his P14. And then finally, of course, Harry Conway starts at the back of the grid, moves himself up to P15. My maths is horrible. But I think that's a pretty impressive drive from him. He can be really happy. Of course, one of our RCI colleagues, if you like. So I'm sure he's over the moon with that drive.
I mean, he's definitely over the moon. I think I realized now why Harry Conway actually missed qualification. It was because he was up here handing us those post-it notes on the traction control and TC settings, or the lack thereof, of those Maseratis. He was too busy trying to help us out with our technical knowledge. He missed qualification. He had to start at the back of the grid, but he had a great race coming out. Unfortunately for him and the other drivers, they've already set up their starting positions for the second race, and they are going to, oh, look at this. Our cameraman has found us a water park that I never knew existed here at the Hungaroring. I think after the commentary slot today, we're going to have to definitely go out and see what these slip and slides are like.
Oh, definitely. And of course, because of the pandemic, empty water park for George and I. No one else wants to brave it. So we'll be jumping on those slides the moment this race is done.
I thought it was just my short shorts that had chased the crowds away, but you did remind me that the pandemic was there. We've also managed to find a drag strip here as well. There's an interesting tongue twister name that if you want to try and say and you're not us, then you're welcome to do so. And here we go. We get a little drone footage of the officers as well. Four car tires and wheels up for grabs for people that like the stream the most. That was what I was told.
There we go. I tell you what, George, a little bit of slip and slide, and then why don't we use that drag bit and we can have a tricycle race?
The tricycle race sounds absolutely phenomenal. I would be keen to do so. Our drone camera pilot just having a lot of fun out on the circuit. You know, you're allowed to do these things when the pandemic is there. These two photographers, obviously twins, trying to catch the action from both directions, wearing their matching clothes as well. I mean, that's nice and cute, isn't it?
Nice and cute. I wonder if they're related to the Crozens. I've now made the Crozens brothers twins as well. But maybe those are the second pair of twins. And then, of course, the all important fire engine and our emergency service workers. So incredibly important.
That man looked very
in this
serious. I don't think he would allow us to go near the track. This says you must stop. There's a racing circuit ahead. So if you have put this into your GPS location, you've got to the sign. It's just warning you that you might come across some GT4s racing in the next 20 seconds. Race 2 almost underway, and that will be another 30-minute sprint race. It looks like the clouds are a little bit ominous and dark. It would be a good start for a horror film, but no rain. So hopefully it stays that way for our drivers.
Hopefully it stays that way. Our cameraman Stu doing a fantastic job of showing us all the sights here on the track before we get ready for race number 2.
You know, it's all about seeing the places that you don't get to see. Normally our drivers starting to peel away. We can start to get serious here. Flags waving in the crowd, giving us a little hello, how you doing? As we head into what should be a good round 2. Round 1 was phenomenal racing. Everybody put their best foot forward, and we saw some very clean and genuine overtakes being made, forcing the errors out from other drivers. And we found another little place to go, a little scary tunnel. Don't go in that tunnel. Well, I wouldn't go in that tunnel.
Don't go in that tunnel. We're getting ready for race number 2. I'm so impressed with how competitive everyone was today. Obviously, they're competitive every time they come to the track, but today, really close fights happening. Everyone right up there in the drama, really close, hard to call. And I'm very excited now as we move into race number 2 because I want to see more of this. The racing and the level of driving just improves week after week in this GT4 championship.
I think this time around, the likes of Lawrence going to be wanting to get past Kansakau early on, not get caught up in those battles for the majority of the race. Try and see if he can stick it up to the likes of Thiago Lima and perhaps Miguel Neto. Based on the last race and the timings that came out, Neto was just on a different race circuit almost, just outclassing the other drivers on the field. The Racing Phoenix Portugal team as a whole have been doing a great job. I mean, their 3 cars, again, will be in that 1, 2, 3 position to start out the race. They get some lovely camera shots as well for their team promo videos. The chicane caused a little bit of chaos for some drivers, others finding it relatively simple. But it's all about making sure that every single corner on this racetrack is stitched together in perfection to make sure that that lap is going to be right. We see one of the triple R BMWs finding the curbs to be a bit of a nuisance there, but it's just the warm-up lap, so it does not matter.
Just a warm-up lap. Keep your eyes on Miguel Neto from Phoenix Racing. He has had an incredible season so far. Just phenomenal racing from him. He's had 2 wins. I think he's been on the podium pretty much 3 out of the 4 races. We can make that 4 out of the 5 now, and maybe potentially a 6th. But Phoenix Racing must be really happy. You see all 3 drivers there now. We do need to give them props because Lima, Kansakau, and Neto, they've been bringing their A game week after week.
They have, and race 2 about to commence. Everybody bunching up, getting themselves into position side by side for the rolling start. The second round the second race for round 3 in the GT4 Championship Season 2 here at the Hungaroring. You're watching RCI TV. My name is George Smith, joined in the box by Sam Wright. The 2 of us will be casting the rest of the series together, and plenty of race action to go as we wait for our race director to wave the green flag. And there it goes. Race 2 is live. 30 minutes are ticking down. Kansakau immediately under pressure from Lawrence as they come down to the braking zone of turn 1. And the 3 Racing Phoenix Portugal cars wanting to work together. Kansakau with a great exit coming out, but look at that. 4 cars going wide. We see one, I think that's Billy Octane, going very wide in the background there. But in the mid-pack, there's just there's been a big send, a big collision, as a lot of the field's going to get caught up in that. 4 cars off the circuit in the background. We saw some nice, clean, close racing in race 1. Race 2, it looks like gloves are off, and a couple of drivers are going to be impacted out from that. That's going to benefit the drivers starting behind them, and that's where we say sometimes it's not the worst thing to start behind the chaos.
That was, I mean, while that was all happening, I was busy watching Lawrence and Consacao, because in that moment where some of that chaos happened right behind them, Lawrence used that opportunity to then overtake Consacao in the turn, which was really smart driving from him, I suppose, using that chaos. Consacao was probably keeping an eye out for that because you just saw all the cars flying around. So he's moved himself up into P3. Didn't affect Neto and Lima, though. Obviously, it was just after Crozen where some of that chaos began, and we'll obviously need to see. Here we go. We've got that race replay so we can see what happened, George.
Yeah, I think it's just going to be a little bit of a contact between the front there. Oh, yeah, it's going to be Helicalio just getting nipped up from behind, sends his car careering into the car alongside, and that's just going to be enough to cause more chaos. So many cars next together. I think, pushing boundaries sometimes does end up in that kind of a scenario. I don't believe Helicalio was too much at fault there, kind of a passenger, as the rear end was caught up, sends your front nose diving into what is not, there's no space next to your car next to you, and it just creates a little bit of chaos. Some F's in the chat for the drivers affected. They've at least it's taken place early on in the race. I don't think too many of those cars actually found barriers to collide into, but they have lost a lot of time. Lima is putting pressure onto Neto, and the 101 chases down the 43. Neto winning the first race. Lima says, "Mates, I want the taste of the championship winning champagne this time."
Yes, Lima saying, I won season 1. I want season 2. Get out of my way. I do feel guilty. Earlier, leading into the race, into the racing day, I was talking about bumper cars, but when you actually see it happen, you feel a little bit bad, because there's a lot of really good drivers who are now Helicalio, Casaz, even Korea. They're all down at the bottom now, and they're going to have to fight their way up. Look at the Triple R Racing boys, though. All 3 of them there now in a battle together, and it just, I'm biased. I love the liveries. It just looks so lovely when you see all those colors together.
It does, and the Triple R boys, of course, members of staff as well, and it's a good little battle coming down. It looks like there's going to still be chaos coming down. Hasefoot manages to really get the read out there. Harry Conway, a little bit of a slip-up coming down. Was it Harry Conway? I don't think it was. I think it was Phil Roberts that might have been caught up in some of that. And right now, Phil Roberts under pressure from Wig. Helicalio trying to make up positions from behind. You see that Camaro of Fimbris Casas also caught up in that initial incident. These guys all needing to make their way through the field, and they've just got a lot of cars in between them. They've got to stay patient, got to find the right time to make those moves, and it is going to work out. I think it was Bryant in the 42 that lost out from Triple R in the previous replay. Luke Wig on board with his rear-facing GoPro. You can see that the likes of Fimbris Casas has got past Helicalio coming into that penultimate corner. 2 cars wide, and you'd pick the wrong line. It just goes from bad to worse, and you just lose positions from the get-go. So Luke Wig here now going to be a little bit of a cork in the bottle, as Fimbris Casas, Helicalio, and Courier all try to get themselves through the field once again. Not a lot of time to work with, though.
Well, this is the thing. Luke's now going to have to keep his head, because he's got very aggressive drivers behind him, all of whom want to move up. They're going to be coming in here hot, so he needs to just stay calm, focus on his lines, don't look behind you, because if you do, you're going to see Casas, and he's quite scary, right? So that's what you need to be focusing on. To keep your eyes, though, while we watch this battle happening, don't forget Lima and Neto up at the top are also fighting. I think Lima's he's right there chasing Neto, because he wants that position as well. But the real battle is going to be happening here as the likes of Casas and Helicalio try and work their way back up the pack.
Neto and Lima will be their battle of their own for sure. I think Lima putting that pressure on early is going to force Neto into an interesting position later on. Looks like Neto is starting to get a little bit of a read out there. Quadrilio here is putting pressure onto the back of Billy Octane in that number 33. We saw Octane doing a good job up against the Maseratis early on. He, in the first race, managed to hold his own against them, then had to also defend off a little bit against his teammate Harry Conway. But this time around, it is going to be Quadriglio in that number 88 BMW to be the battle coming down. Crozen in the 81 BMW, also behind, needs to spot this battle happening in front and use that to their advantage in making sure that they stay on the back end of it. 1 foot amiss, and that's a position that can be made up.
I'm having a little bit of a moment of deja vu here. Obviously, Octane with his Maseratis around him, and also the other Crozen up in P5 battling it out to try and get Consacao out of his spot. So it feels like some of these are going to be a little bit deja vu. The driver's still going. The only difference here, of course, is that now Billy Octane is chasing the Maserati and not the other way around.
And up at the front as well, Lawrence has already got himself into P3 ahead of Consacao, and there's quite a difference in time between them. But Helicalio, you talked about him in the first race, Sam, has made lots of constant point-paying position finishes to get themselves up into a great place in the championship. So Jesper Helicalio is looking to come down and make something happen. Luke Wigg here, and a little bit of pressure. The Camaro went very deep there into the braking zone, forcing Wigg to turn in there. Wasn't quite aware that the Camaro was coming through, and Helicalio was not quite able to get a benefited position from it, but certainly is going to see that these two drivers are at each other's throats, and that's going to create opportunities down the line. 3 laps in, Neto leads things off. Lima is on the chase, still down half a second was the time gap between them a couple of laps ago. It's still less than half a second here, and the Phoenix Racing Portugal team running away a little bit from Martin Lawrence, but it's not very much. As you can see, Lawrence in the background in that 171 BMW. Consacao in the number 29 has Crozen behind them, and then it's not close battles all across the field as we saw in race 1. A little bit more spread out this time coming into race 2.
So interestingly, a little bit more spread out across the field, but really where it is close is up at the top there, because Lawrence, I know he's about a second and a half away from P1 and P2, but we know that Lawrence is quick and he's going to make up that gap. It's a smaller gap than what he was faced with earlier. And while that is all happening, Consacao, the third racer from Phoenix Racing, is going to be trying to do exactly what he did in race 1 and defend his spot from Crozen. So I'm expecting quite a few bigger battles up at the front here, especially because it's so early on in the race. We saw all of them fighting it out a little bit towards the second half of race 1, but it's only 21 minutes in. I mean, 21 minutes to go, which means I think we're going to see some early contentions because they all realize, maybe we left it a little bit too late last time, so now we need to fight. Lima, though, is right on the tail of Neto, George. He does not want to finish in P2 again to his teammates. I think our season 1 champion, he has a bone to pick. He wants to be in the front.
And Neto, of course, sitting at the top of the championship at the moment, needs to stay ahead of Lima to just increase that points gap. Lima on the chase down doesn't want that to happen as we look at Rins Cruzan putting the pressure onto Quadriglio, the number 88 in the very bright BMW, and then the pressure of the Maserati of Jarzabowski in the 36 Maserati is putting things into perspective. He's managing to hang out with the other cars, all driving with their assists on their GT4s. So it's always good to see Billy Octane here in perhaps a little bit of a touching move as he tries to defend on the inside line of that chicane. Does a good job to just stay ahead then of the BMW, the Hungary BMWs behind. Doing a good job for sure.
Doing a good job, and towards the back as well of the pack. Casas obviously did a really good race in our first race and then found himself at the back of the pack. He's been able to take over from Luke Wigg. He's moved into P19 and he is 0.2 of a second away from Roberts, which means I'm expecting some big battles there. Billy Octane, such a good defensive driver, though, really good at maintaining his positions. But as I say that, he is struggling a bit with Quadriglio at the moment.
Oh, Quadriglio has put himself into a good position here, going to force Billy Octane to have to cut that chicane and that's going to be 1 position. Does he lose 2 as the second BMW is in a great position coming through here, doesn't want to yield it, but it will be Crozen to slip on through, and Billy Octane feels like positions are bleeding away at this point. Harry Conway, he's caught up, he's gone alongside Jarzabowski. Great drive coming out from Harry Conway, getting himself through there into P13 as well. And now, together, the Triple R team needs to make their way through the field. Harry Conway going to be on the back of his teammate Billy Octane as the timing sheet updates. And that is indeed the case. Now, the 2 BMWs in front of them are going to be, a challenge to get past Harry Conway. Probably going to want to get past Billy Octane as quick as possible. In terms of the championship standings, he's doing a little bit better. So you'd probably imagine the race control or team race control would be saying, let Billy through. As Phil Roberts, then there is the position coming as Casas gets through. Luke Wigg still under pressure from Helicalio behind. And there's constant action towards the back of the field. Of course, all caused up by that turn to chaos, as a lot of the front-running or mid-pack drivers got caught up in that and now have to try and make their way through the field from the back, with not a lot of time on the clock to do so. So it's all about finding that loud pedal, getting on it as soon as possible. Helicalio then will be our on-board viewpoint as he tries to find a way past Wig. Wig very deep, misses the inside apex just slightly. Helicalio nails it. Now needs to make sure the follow through turn 3 and the carryover into turn 4 is there. Slightly off the pace there. I think backed off just slightly as he saw the Audi coming back across the line. Knows that there's going to be another opportunity later on. But Phil Roberts has picked up another drive-through penalty in that Ginetta, as we see him pulling over onto the side of the apex of turn 5.
I feel like I commentators cursed poor Billy earlier on, where I spoke about how great he is at defending his position. Exactly 3 seconds after I said it, not 1, not 2, but 3 cars went past him. So there you go.
We'll blame Sam Wright will be the hashtag to use there for Billy, and he will most certainly tag us in the Discord for it.
There we go, Billy. Blame Sam Wright. You can change that up. As I say that, Casas now coming in to fight Bryant. Casas is such an aggressive driver, and he is going to be putting the pressure on. This is something he does really well. Just puts the pressure on, finds the gap he's looking for, and that's what he wants now. He needs to get past Brian. He wants to move up the positions, and as I say that, he's doing that. I think he's found that inside line, and he is able to do the overtake. Now can he keep it so that he can move himself into P17?
Sometimes drivers towards the back of the field will know that there are drivers that have been caught up in incidents early on. Not worth fighting for if that's not your battle, and perhaps not letting that all crows in here, putting some pressure onto Konzakar. Both of them going very deep. Nice defense coming out from Ruben there in the number 29 Porsche, as Menno tries to find a way through the exit of turn 2, keeps the pressure on, and now through turn 4 is very close. A lot of trust goes into following at that sort of speed coming into turn 4. It's a very difficult left-hander, and Konzakar goes a little bit deep. This is going to allow the M4 to get alongside as they come up to the chicane. Who breaks where? The BMW alongside now. Konzakar going to have not the greatest line, going to be bullied slightly, but stays on line. The two of them are less than a hair length between them as they stay side by side, and it's sort of advantage traded out in and out between the corners here in the mid section, but the Porsche just stays slightly ahead, manages to get back onto the inside apex for the left-hander, set themselves up for this right-hander, and that was a brilliant bit of defense coming out from Ruben Konzakar. We saw that exact same move being done earlier with Billy Octane. Billy having to jump across the chicane and give those positions back. Konzakar hold his line as much as he could, and equally Crozen giving him the space to come out. That is brilliant driving from both drivers, and that is the stuff we love to see here at Racing Club International, Sam.
Phenomenal. I mean, for me, I wanted to say Konzakar has nerves of steel, but so does Crozen, because the two of them going at it like that, so close, trading it up, but still at the same time keeping it clean, keeping it neat. Good job from both of them. But Crozen's not going to let up. He's going back at it. He wants that P4 from Konzakar this time. He knows they're halfway through the race. He knows he can get it. So he's just going to keep on fighting. And as I say that, Ruben's going to keep on defending.
And that defense is going to just cost them time to the two Aston Martins chasing down behind them. Svensic and McLaughlin hot on their heels now as they spot the opportunity to get by whilst this battle progresses. Look at how much curb that Porsche just took on that inside apex for turn 3. On 2 wheels coming through, but still looking as settled as a petal. Big drift coming out from the number 29, but still manages to hold off. This has allowed that Aston Martin to get into a great place. Then Svensic is going to be having a look then at Crozen. Crozen might lose out big time here as they come into the braking zone for the chicane. They get caught up, and that's going to allow McLaughlin to get right on by Crozen. And Svensic get caught up, puts that battle on ice. And unfortunately, that was not the type of close driving we wanted to see. They get caught up, they pile each other through, and they create opportunities for drivers behind. Ryan Gill in the little Alpine. I said I like to compare the Camaro to the Alpine. Look how cute it is.
I love how we move away from that and just go, like this very intense moment happens and George is like, look at the cute little car. Yes, Ryan and his cute little car sitting in P15 right now, P14. There you go. The cutie is moving on up, George. I'm going to get into so much trouble from Ryan.
We can get into trouble together as Harry Conway and Billy Octane almost go side by side. Billy not just going to give that position up to Harry Conway coming down. They are into the braking zone. Is there a slight touch between them? No love lost as Harry forces Billy out wide, and the two of them continue to come down. Harry's still chasing down. Of course, Harry Conway in that Aston Martin, Billy Octane in the McLaren, and the two of them driving for Triple R. And I thought that maybe Billy would allow Harry to come through and get the points on the board, but Billy Octane living up to his name, keeping the pedal to the metal and just making sure that he makes life hard for his teammate there.
Casas now, he's just a scary force on the track in that big Camaro, right? I just looks so beastly as it comes up, and he is moving on up from the back there. Obviously, if you've just joined us, you missed the kerfuffle, if you like, that happened at the start of the race, which forced Casas to drop right back. He was contending up in the top 5 in race number 1, so he's now hungry and he's desperately trying to move on up. So he's sitting behind this pack. Hasselfoot, Smith, Gill, they need to, Ryan Gill, the little cutie. I actually wouldn't mind seeing that Camaro. You can see Smith's one right behind the cute little car. But seeing all those big Camaros so close, Ryan, you got to be a little bit scared, right, George?
Ooh, Hasselfoot with a great little drive there. Actually got the jump in on Smith, so we'll start to chase down on Ryan. Ryan will be smiling, knowing that he's got some traffic behind him. They're all fighting for positions, but Hasselfoot will now be the next contender to try and chase down onto Ryan Gill. I'm going to avoid calling him a cutie. I think we keep our love relationship private, but Sam just showing that the little cute Alpine is definitely out there and really needs to be up against the Camaro for that big small comparison to really look great. Otherwise I just look like I'm talking nonsense.
There we go. Thiago Lima currently in that number 1 spot. Neto is 0.3.4 of a second off him. So there's a big battle happening at the front there. And Martin Lawrence has used that opportunity to make up some time as well between himself and those top 2 cars. Right now, though, the Maserati making a play on the Triple R races. Wants to get in that action, possibly sandwich himself in.
Yeah, I mean, Jazabowski seeing that Octane and Conway are scrapping it out, sees the opportunity to just close that gap down. Doesn't quite have the ability to just get onto the accelerator as easily as the cars. Doesn't have the traction control, scared of looping it around. As we look here at Hasselfoot, this is the little passing action, a little bit of contact coming in between them coming down. And you can see Hasselfoot is now chasing. It was just a little contact between the two as Fimbras Casas has gotten the move done. And we should have another race replay coming in. Tom Bryant in that Triple R BMW up against, that would be Jesperi Helicalio behind. Oh, a little bit of a tap from behind. No. Sends him fishtailing out. Loses the positions to Wig and Courier. So for Bryant, he's not going to be too happy about that position, will find himself back towards the end of the field, but still in it. Still 9 minutes to go. Anything can happen. We've seen stranger things come down. And now Fimbres Casas in the number 10 Camaro hunts down on Ryan Gill in that Alpine. And, I don't want to say it, but just look, it looks like it's like a shark coming to eat a little seal.
It's not even a seal. It's like little Nemo trying to get away from the shark. That's what it currently looks like. But Nemo's doing a really good job.
You almost lose the whole Alpine under the massive bonnet of the Camaro as they come closer together. I mean, at one point, it feels like Fimbres Casas can't even see Ryan's poor little Alpine over the bonnet.
Can't see the Alpine anymore. Just disappeared. It's too cute and small. We've got to stop on the cute. Look at this. It's about to eat him up. I can imagine the bonnet just opening it up, shutting it down, swallowing up Ryan Gill, and then driving on forward.
How many Alpines can you fit inside a Camaro? That's kind of the question that I'm thinking. I know I shouldn't be. Look at it. It's like a little remote control car on the circuits.
Like a little remote control car. Let's take a look now at Billy Octane. I'm pretty sure that this is when his teammate takes it away from him. Harry Conway just saying, no, Billy, get behind me.
Yeah, this is a forced overtake. Rubbing is racing, but Billy Octane has gotten that position back from Harry Conway. It looks like maybe Harry breaks himself at some point, or Billy just decides, well, the two of them actually lose out together. And I mean, that's where your team principal is looking back going, oh, that's not what I want, guys. I want you to work together in the field. And luckily, the two of them are their own race principals in Triple R. They formed up the team together, to my knowledge. And now they have to go back to the drawing board afterwards and decide what actually went wrong. But Ryan Gill, what a defense coming out. I've ripped off his car enough coming into this, but he's had a great race. He's been holding off Fimbres Casas and Hasevoort for the last couple of laps. Needs to hold off for the last 7 minutes, and been doing a great job at putting this car in the right places, nailing his apexes and braking points, and just making sure he's parking it on the apex where nobody can get past or around, not allowing an easy overtake at all.
George, you asked how many of the Alpines you could get in the bonnets of the Camaro, and the answer is none, because it's too fast. Ryan is staying ahead.
Yeah, I mean, there we go. We gave him enough grief. We go back to another race replay. Harry Conway and Billy Octane are, we talk about giving each other room. They are not giving each other room. They are deciding that they want the same racing line. And for the two of them, it's going to be difficult. Ryan may be losing out that position. We said he defended hard, and he's now on the wrong part of the track coming into turn 2. But if he stays alongside, carries the momentum through, might be able to hold off and stay alongside for the inside line here. Needs to be careful, and he does. Needs to back off just slightly, and that back off has actually cost him time. Will lose the position to Hasevoort, and perhaps Smith also going to close down shortly. So that defensive position is done and dusted. Now needs to do the chase, as well as keeping Smith behind. 6 minutes on the clock. Thiago Lima is our race leader ahead of Neto. So that's something that we didn't see take place. But Thiago Lima 6/10 up from Neto. Lawrence in third, and Consacao sitting in 4th place. So still a good finish, looking like it's coming its way for Phoenix Racing Portugal. But it has been absolute madness towards the back end of the mid pack. We've had to keep updated with the positional swaps time and time again.
Time and time again, lots of position swaps, a couple of bumps as well. But Lima and Neto are racing their own race up there. The Phoenix Racing team, they're in a battle all on their own. And of course, we saw the last race. Neto took that top spot. Lima coming second this time. Lima didn't want that. Lima, our season 1 champion. Neto currently in the top on the points for season 2, so there's a really strong battle. And all the while, Martin Lawrence just sitting in 3rd position, trying to see where he can get in, because of course when it comes to the season points, he's sitting comfortably in 5th as well. So lots of battles happening there. But right now, watching Billy Octane and his teammate Harry Conway, they're having their own little battle here in 12 and 13.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't be, we wouldn't always point out their racing as something to recommend out to viewers coming through here and be like, that's the way you drive. These two are good friends in real life. They're in the same team. They obviously have their elbows out. They are racing for positions. Harry is certainly ahead of Billy when it comes down to the championship standings. And it's very clear that Billy is not going to give Harry an easy overtake. He knows that Harry's had to start from the back of the grid. Harry's done a great job to get himself up into P13 regardless. But Billy making sure that there's not going to be an easy overtake done. And the two of them have managed to keep their cars out of the barriers and have managed to not impact anybody else's race while they're sorting out their inner team squabbles, I'd like to say.
It's just a lover's quarrel happening, but look at Casas in P14. He's just behind these two races. He obviously didn't have such a great start to the race after finishing, I think it was 4th or 5th in race number 1, but he's moved himself up. I think he was sitting in P20, P21. He's moved himself all the way up to P14, and he is now chasing down the Triple R races. You know, it's 3 minutes to go. I'm not 100% sure if he'll be able to catch him, but he's had a really good recovery and he can be really happy with that.
For sure. Neto is also closing that gap down onto the likes of Lima. Almost, let's just call it 0.4 of a second, half a second down. Octane, very wide. Harry Conway slots himself in, but a lot of speed carried out from that McLaren, taking that wide line. Certainly going to be given a track limits warning coming through, so might even be getting closer to his last one. Maybe that's Harry's plan, force Billy into making the mistake, get a drive-through penalty, and get the position for free when he has to go into the pit box.
The two drivers going to battle it out right to the bitter end. We are less than 3 minutes to go in the second race of our third leg of season 2 of the Racing Club International GT4 Championship.
Oh, Luke Wigg, he's found himself in a spot to bother. We're going to get a race replay to see what's quite happened there. Oh, contact comes in, and that's going to send both cars into a position they wouldn't want to be in. Luke Wigg trying to get back in control there. I think the Aston Martin of Korea does give him that position back. Feels that was the colliding factor, the causation of it. Ryan Gill hasn't got Smith behind him for pressure. Now has Jesper Helicalio. And I know for Ryan, if he can just keep Jesper Helicalio behind him for the till the end of the race, that will be like winning not just this race, but a whole championship. Ryan, of course, getting more time to drive, which is great. Spends a lot of time doing the admin side of things, graphics, commentary, the occasional broadcast when he needs to. It's it's great to see our fellow staff members being able to get out into the races and enjoy themselves in the championships as well. It's what this entire community has been formed around, is people giving up their time to come through and do the admin, do the racing, do the commentary, and still being able to have fun on the circuit when the time allows it.
In such cute cars as well. I'm going to stop there. Okay, here we go. Thiago Lima's still in P1 with less than a minute to go in this race. Neto, though, sitting right behind him, chasing up Martin Lawrence comfortably in P3. And then the third Phoenix Racing driver currently sitting in P4, Country Cow, going strong there. We're watching this little battle unfold. 007 getting chased down, trying to just keep his P9. And as I say, that Quadriglio is fighting now. He knows the race is coming to an end and he knows he's got to make his move.
Or coming up to the chicane, we've seen this happen before. It's going to be both BMWs forced to go up the 88 and the 81. So Quadriglio and Crozen almost going into that situation, but managing to avoid it. Our race director and broadcaster Stewie whispering in my ears to look at the timing sheet, and you can see it. Harry Conway has picked up the drive-through penalty. Didn't go the way of Billy Octane, and it has been Conway that has put a foot amiss. That is going to be a drive-through on the last lap, which is not going to be ideal. I think we'll pick up a time penalty for not being able to serve it, as our leaders are going to come up to the line. It is going to be Thiago Lima for the Phoenix Racing Portugal team, the 101, going to take the victory here ahead of their teammate Miguel Neto. And what a great race coming out from both those Phoenix Racing drivers. Lawrence will take home P3 in the 171 Connection Last Racing BMW. And we jump back to a little battle. Ryan Gill and Helicalio, can they hold it off? Helicalio round the outside, second last corner, coming up to the third last corner, coming up to the second last corner here. Ryan going to be bullied out of position there right at the end. I think it was a good showing regardless from Ryan Gill. Jesperi Helicalio, you expect him to be higher up the order, and fortunately was caught up in that early chaos. So looking at the finishing position, Kansakau finishes in 4th, McLaughlin in 5th, Sokola in 6th, Crozen 7th, Svensik takes home 8th, Quadriglio in 9th, Crozen in 10th, Wig trying to hold off Courier here down to the line, and it looks like they will. Jazabowski takes home P11. Conway crosses the line with a 30-second time penalty and finishes in P12. Billy Octane in 13th. Fimbras Casas takes home P13. Harsfoot 14th. Helicalio then in 15th. Gill in 16th. Smith 17th. Bryans 18th. 19th for Wig. 20th for Courier. Conway in 21st. Robertson 22nd. And Ertan rounding things up in P23.
Luke Wigg did such a great job. He had a lot of aggression that he had to face during the race. So to finish in P19, good for him. But really the story right now, halfway through the season, we have to talk about Lima at the top there. The battle between the Phoenix Racing boys, Thiago Lima, Miguel Neto, they are just swapping P1, P2 as they go. We saw it happen today, and it's really, this is where the competition is going to heat up. Can Thiago Lima, our season 1 champion, retain the title, or is his teammate Miguel Lima going to take it? Miguel Neto, sorry, take it from him?
Oh, I mean, we're gonna have to wait and see what comes out from that, aren't we? I mean, that was a great finish from both the Phoenix Racing Portugal drivers. Of course, fighting it out in the championship as well. That just goes to show how much time and effort the drivers have been putting in. And Lima wants to make it back-to-back championship wins in the GT4 championship, but isn't going to just let it go easily. Is the likes of Neto. And Neto will be the one that we're looking forward to seeing if he can just hold off. He's got a big lead, and it will take a lot for his teammate to catch up.
Great racing, though, from all our drivers today. Always entertaining, this GT4 championship.
Always interesting to see. Of course, we will be back next week, Thursday, as well, for the next part of this Season 2 GT4 championship. Round 3 today at the Hungaroring. Next week, we go to round 4. And I also just want to highlight the fact that we've got a charity race coming up on Saturday. The community member paired with the RCI staff race, 4 hours of spa. So if you guys are interested in coming and tuning in and supporting what goes down, that would be absolutely incredible for you guys. A big shout out to our viewers. You guys have been incredible. Nice to see the chat being lit up with people supporting their fellow drivers or their favorite drivers. We managed to get a lot of likes in the stream as well. You guys enjoyed the commentary. It was a lot of fun being here in the box with Sam. Sam, I hope you had a good time as well.
I always have a good time. The GT4 championship is my favorite. I love the chaos. I love the aggressive driving. I'm such a fan of all of these drivers, and watching them week after week has just been so much fun. And I'm going to be counting the sleeps till next week, George.
Yes, May the 6th is when we are back. It's going to be time to head over to Barcelona. Again, 2 races to take place there. We will see you guys then, and hopefully we'll see you supporting the charity stream on Saturday. But from myself, George Smith, Sam Wright, my co-commentator, and of course our broadcaster, Stewie, thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you guys soon.